Hello STANAG experts, my name is Małgorzata Mazurek and this is 7 common mistakes to avoid in a STANAG 6001 discussion. Let's begin. So what is a STANAG 6001 discussion? So you may probably know that STANAG level 3 exam usually consists of 2 speaking tasks. One of them is a monologue, which I talked about in the previous video, and the second one is a discussion. So a discussion entails having a dialogue with the second candidate, sometimes with an examiner. It also entails an exchange of arguments. In the Polish version of the exam, it entails negotiating the order of suggested factors or elements that should be discussed. And it also checks your ability to initiate and maintain conversation. It also is very important to interact and to show that you can interact with the second candidate during this part of the speaking exam. So, what are the 10 common mistakes in a discussion and how to avoid them? So, number 1 is an unnatural discussion. What does it mean? It means that people start using a language that is characteristic for a monologue. Or people start using the vocabulary or expressions that are very formal. So don't start with a formal and irrelevant introduction such as "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, we are here to do this or that." It's not a lecture, it's a conversation. So don't use unnaturally sophisticated language as well and inaccurately complex structures. So what to do instead? Make it sound like a natural, semi-formal conversation, because this is what it is supposed to be. How to do it? Well, the best way is to try to use natural and real life language. And what is the thing? Another thing that people often have problems with. So it's reciting a monologue instead of having a discussion. After they have had monologue in the first task, very often people forget that task number 2 is about a conversation and not about another monologue. So what not to do first? So don't try to say as much as you know about the factor in one go without interacting, because in this way you're having another monologue. Don't forget, it is a conversation, it is an exchange of arguments. Don't dominate the discussion, or don't let yourself be dominating the discussion. Instead, try to share the time that you have for this task evenly. Remember to interact. Interaction between speaking partners in an exam is one of the factors that is actually evaluated. Refer directly to what your colleague says by more than saying "I agree." So if you want to say that you agree, say what you agree with directly and precisely. Point number 3, the mistake number 3, is that people try to add as many arguments, as many ideas, as many examples as they can without justifying or explaining how they are connected with this topic. So don't just add new things, focus on a few chosen ones and explain them thoroughly. Make sure also that each factor is discussed in detail by both candidates, but each factor that's required in the task instruction. Justify and explain every new piece of information. Just say how it is connected to the topic, how it is relevant. And about the precision of argumentation, here also what is important is precision of questions. So instead of just asking, "Do you agree with me?" it's a very good practice to ask, "Do you agree that this thing is the most dangerous?" for example. So be very precise also when you are asking questions in your conversation. Mistake number 4 is the lack of precision. So people often change the topic because they don't understand the question or they know more about something else which is closely related. So don't change the topic because you know more about something else. Also, don't change a general abstract question into a question about your personal experience, particular situation, or example. So what to do instead, to be precise? Well, if you don't understand the question or a word, you just ask about it. You can use such words as, I'm not quite sure what you mean by this or that. Could you explain the question? Could you explain this word? Could you please clarify the question on the word for me? It's better than changing the topic. Also, be ready to discuss general and abstract ideas, which may require, for example, hypothesizing. Bringing everything down to a personal experience and particular examples won't always do the job. Okay, the fifth idea, the fifth factor that is important and which often causes problems is language. So don't use language that is too formal and unnatural. Try to make a conversation of this task. As it was already mentioned, it's not a monologue, it's not a lecture, so try not to use full and memorized sentences. Don't try to stage a monologue. Don't use linking words as a characteristic for written language. Instead, use language that is simple but not simplistic. Focus on argumentation and fluency and varied vocabulary, instead on focusing on fixed expressions or learning full sentences by heart. Timing is also a very important issue, so don't ignore the time limit simply. Each task in an exam has its specified time limit, so make sure that you know what the time limit is and stick to it. It is important because sticking to the design time limit makes it possible for you to conclude the task properly and to achieve your task's goals. And also related to timing is conclusion. So don't forget about a common conclusion if you don't fully agree. So this is connected with the negotiated order discussion in the Polish version of the STANAG 601 exam, in which you are supposed to reach a conclusion about a list of factors. So it's not obligatory to have a common conclusion, but it is recommended to have one. So if it is possible to agree, even partly, then do it. So, but if you cannot agree on any of the factors and their order, then sum up what you have discussed and what your common ground is or is not. But anyhow, remember to conclude. Okay, that's all for the 7 most important areas in which to avoid mistakes in the discussion. If you think that this is useful and that is something that you would like to practice in a group of like-minded people, candidates preparing for the STANAG 601 exam, if you would like to practice those things with me, I would like to invite you to take part in the STANAG Expert Speaking and Writing Workshop, which starts on the 10th of January. And if you want to know more about it, check out the courses tab on www.stanagexpert.com website. And I hope to see you there. Thank you. Bye-bye.